Good morning. Good morning. It's an honor and a blessing to be with you today. And I want to extend my thanks to Reverend Newsom for the invitation to be with you here today. We just said, wow, to think what you have manifested here. But I would assume, and I'm assuming, that along that road, however long it took to manifest this wonderful community and this wonderful edifice that you worship in, that there had to be times you hit a wall, or you had some crisis, or the ego would show his head. But it was during those times that I'm sure answers and directions came from those times. It was an opportunity to learn about ourselves and to learn the path that brings us to the destiny that we all are looking for of manifestation. Today's message may sound a little negative to you, but it's not meant in any way to be negative. It may be good, it may be not good, but it's spiritual. You don't know me very well, but let me just say this about myself is some people have nice sermons, and we need nice just sermons that lift us up and makes us feel positive and all of that. We have lectures, we have teachers, but I come today with a message. And it's my message that burns in my heart the most. And that is for us to understand spiritually the time in which we are living in. I don't know about you if you agree with this, but I know for myself that I chose to be here in this incarnation at this time. That I chose my parents, I chose where I was to be born, all of the experiences, the religion I was born in, everything has all been a tool in molding and shaping me for where I am today. Every one of you represent a story, your story. And you know, we have in religion, traditional religion, mostly done worship in retrospect, meaning that we have talked about those that lived thousands of years ago, 6,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. But actually, we need to move away from his story, history, her story, his story, to my story and the mystery. My story is the mystery of myself. It was put beautifully in the meditation. Who am I? The greatest question that you can ask is who and what am I? There lies really the truth with a capital T. I've spent 50-some years trying to find the truth, the truth. Maybe this religion had it, or this group had it, and I have just gone all over the place looking for the truth. And one day I had an experience in which I was meditating on this idea of what is the truth. And I thought of a story in the Bible about how Jesus stood before the powers to be, Pilate, and he asked him, "Who are you? Who are you?" And it's interesting that in that story, Jesus gave no verbal answer whatsoever. He didn't say, "I'm Jesus Christ, the Son of God," and he didn't whip out his Bible and start preaching salvation or all the things you would think he would have done. He just stood in the power of the silence, in the meditation, which was beautifully done. But I thought the most powerful thing is in the silence. Was in the silence. I ask our students that I train in sound therapy, what is the most perfect sound in all the universe? And most people will come up with the Om. No, the Om is the first primordial sound that we heard. But actually, silence itself is the most perfect sound in all the universe. It's in the stillness. When I was watching that storm and going around, how huge it was and all the what it was causing, I couldn't help but to come back to the eye of the hurricane, the eye of the tornado. No matter how havoc things get, there's always the still point. And it's wonderful that we can go to that place and renew and strengthen our souls today. Crises precedes transformation. First of all, I want to say that transformation is a word that it more fits what is going on today. I don't think change is enough to say we changed, but we are transforming ourselves, not just changing ourselves. The word transform is actually translated from the Greek 4 times in the New Testament from the Greek word metamorpho. You recognize that word in English as metamorphosis. So as I think of this word being used, transformation, and not just a change, I think of looking at that story a little bit. And we've all heard it over and over and over, but I always tell the congregation that there's no way a caterpillar goes through that process of breaking itself down at the molecular level and going into this goo, this chaotic goo. And you know, there's something that happens, and this is from science, and they don't understand it, that some kind of molecule shows up out of the invisible into the visible of that goo. And they didn't know what to name it, and guess what they named it? The imaginal cell, or the imaginal molecule. In other words, the goo took on a new imagination of seeing itself something completely different than what it was. So the caterpillar doesn't go through that whole process of the breakdown and the instability of itself as the caterpillar to reorganize itself as an enlightened caterpillar again, but it literally sees an opportunity to repattern itself and restructure itself into a higher state of species, the butterfly. This is what I feel, are being offered today. This is evolutionary. It's a step into the next direction. We have had over 10,000 years of dominion over the earth, men over women. We've had times of reductionism, when everything is specialized, and this is not me. I was thinking in the meditation that actually where A Course in Miracles says that all this separation happened was when a part of the brain says to the other part of the brain, who are you? And in that moment, a belief in separation took place. The separation didn't take place, right? But a belief in separation. I'm not you and you're not me. And built upon that was a whole system of thinking that we call the ego's system, based upon fear and keeping us separate, dividing and conquering, which is pretty much the world that we have lived in. But thank goodness worlds come and worlds go. Now, I'm not talking about planets. People used to think the end of the world was the end of the earth. I said, no, the world is the systems of the planet. They come and they go. They change. They decay. They go in destruction, and they resurrect themselves into much more higher organization. Could this be happening to us? Have we come to the end of what it means to be adolescent humans, trying to carry around and drag around our dreary egos and trying to fix ourselves to let's give up like that little caterpillar did and say, okay, Holy Spirit, I want to be a part of a system of transformation, of moving us into the next level of what it means to be human. All of this came to me actually by studying a little bit of physics back in the late 80s. I didn't feel that I got the answers I was looking for in the religious arena that I was raised in, and therefore I went outside of that arena and I started trying to understand a more deeper aspect of perception. It was in an old motel room in Memphis in 1989 in which I'd come to the end about everything I believed. I wasn't even sure I believed in God. I wasn't believe in anything. Every time I would get up to minister, and I'd ministered a lot of years by then, I would feel like I was at the edge of a cliff overlooking the void of nothing. And it really made me aggravated to think, God, would you bring me, if there is a God, would you bring me to the end of nothing? Is it over? And going back into my room, and a little tape somebody gave me, a man with a heavy accent was saying that new physics has found out there is not empty space in the cell, but it's an electromagnetic field of all possibility. And my cells lit up with an intelligence my brain didn't know. And at that moment, my mind had outgrown my brain completely. And I realized that there's intelligence in us that is ready to be awakened. It's coded information of how we can make this tremendous experience of our leap into our spiritual evolution. So in looking at all of this, I begin to realize that the evolution of human consciousness is the marriage of science and spirituality into what I like to call a new spiritual common sense. Now, I was raised in the Pentecostal religion. Yes. That took living 4 lifetimes in this one to get from there to here. And I'm not Pentecostal anymore, but I'm Metacostal. So if I get kind of happy up here, you know where that kind of comes from. First time I went to Unity of Charlotte, someone got and advertised me as a cross between Billy Graham and Deepak Chopra. And I thought, well, that kind of did it well, I think, in that way. So I began to look for answers outside of more the religious arena, and I began to look into this whole idea of energy. It just awakened something in me when I would hear the word energy. And I began to go back and read some of the early fathers of energy and teachings, Einstein especially, who so beautifully tells us that everything is energy. Now, I know a lot of people get upset with me, but I think we're in a powerful paradigm shift today of moving away from body, mind, and spirit. Now, it doesn't mean when you move to a new paradigm, the old paradigm's now wrong and you can't use it. You can always use it because it's a good communication tool. Because we live in a 3D space-time, we understand things in threes better if it's done that way. So you have the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. I could go on with threes till in the Bible. It's all in threes because it's written in third dimension, for third dimensional thinking. So what was I saying for then? Something important, but huh? Yeah, body, mind, spirit. It's kind of like this. This is very simple, but if I looked at steam, water, and ice, that's 3 different forms. So I can see it from 3 different separate things in form, but not in content. The content is they're all made of the very same thing, which is 6-sided molecules, water molecules. Same thing. The thing that makes it different is the temperature, right? At a higher temperature, water molecules have more space between them. That makes it more ethereal, something that I can't really touch or feel. It's not solid. But if you lower the temperature, then you begin to have water because there's less space in the molecules, so they take on a different form. If you keep moving it down to freezing point, then it becomes an object, a 3-dimensional object of ice. But wonder if ice looked over at water and said, I don't like you. You're not me. You're runny. You need a container. Look at me. I'm shiny. I got edges. I got it together. And this steam thing, I'm not sure at all if I even believe in it. It's just too mystical for me. So that's kind of what's going on, is there is this shift into a new age, a quantum age, the age of energy, where everything is energy. One of my favorite quotes from the early physicists is this, possibly from Einstein: about matter, we've all been wrong. There is no matter. There's only energy vibrating at such a slow density that it is perceptible to the 5 senses. Let me say that again. That's kind of a mouthful, isn't it? About matter, you've all been wrong. Now, we all know that Eastern cultures have taught for thousands of years about Maya or illusion. And I think a lot of people in the West has confused illusion with delusion. We're not talking about things that are not there. We're talking about things that appear as though there's something other than what they were created to be. That is what I call illusion. So as we move beyond illusions and begin to connect more with the reality of the essence of things, we begin to see a different world. So about matter, we've all been wrong. So that means everything in this room that is solid is an illusion in that definition. Because it's only energy, the same energy, that by using the spectrum of vibration is forming itself into the things that make up chairs, buildings, human bodies even. So science is proving what Eastern thought and metaphysics have been saying for a long time, that it's true, that actually there's only energy. The energy we can see is vibrating at such a slow density that it takes the form as the chair my five senses see. Now that chair didn't tell me it's the chair, because it's really not a chair. It's actually some cloth and some material and some screws and some steel or wood or whatever that makes up a chair. But in my mind, it's a chair, because that's the way I see it, right? So we name our nature the world of matter. So moving beyond our five senses is what it means to be spiritual. People are, it's real popular now. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, whatever that means to everybody. But to me, it just merely means that I'm no longer putting all spiritual principles and ideas and running it through my five senses, but I've gone beyond the five senses into a realm of spiritual, which we call Christ consciousness. That is truly what Christ consciousness is. Dr. Brian O'Leary, a former astronaut and co-founder of the International Association for New Science, tells us we're heading for a new renaissance of science, consciousness, and state and consciousness. We are on the threshold, he says, of our own transcendent evolution, adding, the genie is out of the bottle. Well, the genie is out of the bottle as far as the emergence of enlightened thinking. We got it. We sound really enlightened. Oh yeah, you get a bunch of us together, and you get together at lunch today, you're going to sound really enlightened, because you've been to the workshops, you've read the books, you've had the best of speakers, you've got it. But the world needs more than more thinking. It needs manifestation of what we think. We can think about love with the brain, but the brain can never be the thing it thinks about. Think about that. In other words, I intellectually can learn all the etymology of love and teach on it and sound really like I know something about love, and have never experienced what love is at all. There's a difference. And what the world is looking for is not another religion based upon thinking, but it needs a manifestation of the peering of Christ consciousness all the way to the mental, emotional, and physical level. I think this is what New Thought is about. The first time I spoke in a New Thought church and was asked to speak back in the 80s, I was directed by my inner guidance that I needed to become a part of the New Thought community, because they would be the midwives that would be there for those that are coming out of orthodox traditional religions, wounded and hurt, and need to find a safe place of non-judgment in which to heal. You're not here just to be a church or a congregation. You're all in training to be light workers. That's what we need. We need light workers to step up and say yes to the universe. Use me. Let me be a clear channel for you. So as I was watching all of this, and I was observing the beginning of transformation in the process of molecules, such as hydrogen molecules, and how that they're made out of the same thing of any other molecules, whether it's lithium, whatever the tables are, it's all made of the same thing, like the steam, water, and the ice, right? Same things. Same content, different form. But you can't have a different form without first the old one breaking down. When I started Soma Energetics over 18 years ago, I was asked in meditation by my higher self, do you want to work with what's trying to fix what's broken, or do you want to work with what's breaking through? Now, I didn't know what that meant in my own brain, but again, that intelligence inside of me said, I choose to work with what's breaking through. So the question is, what is breaking through, right? Now, we all know that we live in a third dimension space. Everybody understand that? If I said to Reverend Newsom, I want to say Newton, let's stay over tomorrow and I'll meet you at, I'll just make up an address, 3rd and Main on the 10th floor. I've given him 3 bits of information. He can find me in space. Pilots use it. Most people use it that have to navigate through space, time. The only thing that he does not know is what time to meet me. So if I add time to it, I have a space-time, right? So that's third, fourth. So I've named what's breaking through fifth dimension. I call it the next dimension of energy that is outside our third, fourth dimensional world is breaking through. Now, if something's going to break through, it's going to break down old systems. So let's look at some of the systems. Medical system, financial system, political system. There's not an educational system. What is not in jeopardy or in trouble that is in some way breaking down before us? But it's breaking down because of what's breaking through. So that means we need to learn how to repattern energy as the caterpillar inherently learned how to reorganize itself energetically into the butterfly. So what are we moving from? We're moving from adolescence. What are we moving to? Co-creative adult. And that's what I'm looking for. Where are the people who are going to step up and take responsibility to ushering in the manifestation of a new age of love and move us further and further from an age based on fear, dividing and conquering, uniting and healing? There's a place in the Bible that always fascinated me as a young minister where the teacher said, "Be as wise as a serpent, but as harmless as a dove." And I thought, well, that's interesting. Why would he say that? But I understood what he was saying. Those who have controlled the world have been successful in what they're attempted to do. They've carried out their agendas of dividing us racially, gender, religion, politically, and therefore weakening us as a species so that we could be conquered by the few. Well, we're shifting away from that. With the age now of information and the ability to take our finger on our computers and pull up about any information we want, it can't be hidden any longer from us. The teacher said that that which has been in secret shall be shouted from the housetops and shall be revealed. So there's information that's empowering us. And the more you, the individual, become empowered, the less empowered those who have controlled the agenda of how the direction of the world is to go. This is a tremendous time. And that's what I wanted to bring to you this morning. I want to ignite the spark in you, the fire in you of the purpose that you are more than just another church, another group of people, another religion. When I studied Charles Fillmore quite a bit when I was Minister of Education at Unity of Charlotte for a few years, I really wanted to know this guy. I just wanted to know who he was. And the senior minister at that time came up with an idea that we would honor on their anniversary Myrtle and Charles Fillmore. So we had somebody in the church who had a costume shop, and he was able to get us the entire clothing of the period in which they lived. I had the spats and the whole thing on. And I was in my office waiting to go out there because we wanted to surprise him. And I literally felt the spirit of Charles Fillmore, the presence of it. And I realized this man was visionary. If you read his things, you will see that he really saw this time of the quantum. He saw this time of change and transformation. He saw that there was, and he didn't want what is unity to become confined in the dogma and doctrine of another religion, but to remain free, to grow, to develop, to experiment, to move forward. And that's what I have found with Unity and New Thought, a space that I had never found before in all the years of my ministry. So today, if you're going through any type of a crisis in your life, maybe it's physical, and you're trying to figure out what's wrong with you. The doctor's not giving you diagnosis that is resonating with you. Maybe they're telling you it's all in your head. Maybe they're saying there's nothing wrong with you. Or maybe they say things like, oh, well, you're getting older, you should have this. And I was told that recently. What do you want? You're in your 70s. You know, you're going to go sometime. Oh, well, thank you. That's not exactly what I came to hear. Yeah, he didn't recognize my metamorpho experience at all. So maybe it's mental. Maybe you're going through insomnia, anxiety, fear. Maybe it is in your relationship. Maybe you're going through a breakup, or you're wanting a relationship, or something in your relationship has become different, because we tend to outgrow things so quickly now as things are happening. To you, you see that as a crisis. That's not a fun time. But you know what? It can be very spiritual. It may not feel good, but it can be spiritual. Not everything that is spiritual feels good. Spirit is transcendent of the way humans see good and bad. When we get up here and say in unity that God, the one power, God the good, we don't mean a good that is opposite of evil. We mean a good that is transcendent. What is good is what Spirit has for me to move me along and evolve me to my full potential of all that I've been created to be. Quickly, I've got 2 minutes. In Some Energetics, what we teach in tuning forks and sound therapy, we don't teach people are broken, need to be fixed. We come from the premise that everyone is created whole and magnificent now. And we work with the wholeness and not the brokenness, by removing the blockages and what is keeping that wholeness from translating itself all the way through the causal, the astral, the mental, the emotional, and into the etheric blueprint that drives the cellular system of your body. Today you will lose 10 million cells and replace them. Wonder if you changed the place in which those cells came from that had arthritis, that had sickness, that had cancer, came from a different vibration, then would those cells continue the old pattern or start reading a new blueprint? The Bible is clear that Christ is a seed, not as many, but a seed. And I'm telling you, that seed is God DNA in you. God's got a blueprint in you that is different from your ancestral genetic blueprint. I hope today that you'll consider coming to the workshop. It's on relationships, and we're going to really delve into this probably in a way you maybe never heard it before. I don't know, but usually with me it's always different than the way it's traditionally done. And also we're going to do tuning fork. We're going to do the 528 I talked about in the earlier service for you that was there. The 528 love fork, and we're going to activate our heart's love code within us. All right? Thank you so much. You've been very attentive today. And just remember, crises precedes transformation. Birth pains is before the birth, but joy cometh in the morning. I said joy cometh.